All right, guys. Wylie and I are in the office today, and we were talking to some new agents, and we wanted to get out some training that we feel like we used to do all the time in our office, was just going over objections, whether it's phone, virtual, in-home sales. So we're gonna go back and forth for a little bit and just kind of cover different objections, how we both overcame them, because I think we did it a little bit differently. So we're just gonna go back and forth. Like Wylie will give me one, I'll throw him back his way. So dude, let's start with this. Let's start with phone objections, and then go in-home, and then you can tackle a couple of the virtual sales ones. So,
okay. The biggest objection that I got on the phone earlier was, hey, Zach, could you just drop it off? So how'd you handle that?
Perfect, Wylie. My job is to make sure you get the information. I have to check your ID and let you know what you qualify for. You can do whatever you want with it from there, but I have to make sure you actually get the information, and then I can get you off our list so I stop calling you.
Yeah.
Simple. So I think just moving past the objection, a lot of people are like, can you just drop it off? And they get confrontational with people. On the phone, you can't be confrontational no matter what. Like if someone throws you an objection, you can't go, yeah, you definitely did fill this out. So let's do this one. So, hey, Wylie, I didn't fill this out.
Perfect. I have your date of birth down as 6/12/1947. Then I have your address here as 123 Success Lane. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my address.
All right, perfect. So my job is just to get that information back to you. It's going to take me 10 to 15 minutes to do your eligibility. You said you're done with work around 5. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm off at 5.
Okay, perfect. I'll be there at 5:30. Would you want me to park on the side of the street or the driveway?
Driveway, but Wylie, I'm not 100% sure I'm really interested in this. I don't think I need it.
Yeah, perfect. My job's just to get you the information, show you your options, then you can make an educated decision from there.
Right. I mean, and that's the biggest thing for everyone watching this is, like in the home, you're going through and you're figuring out what they need, their insurance, everything. But on the phone, all you're trying to do is just sell them on sitting down with. You're selling an appointment, right? Mm-hmm. You're selling a 15-minute time slot to go over information with them. You're not selling them buying insurance. You're not selling anything else. You're just selling contact with the customer for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, and you're gonna get out of their hair real quick. So
that's it.
You got another one you want to throw my way?
I would say one of the ones I struggled with early was, I don't know. I'm going to be really busy today. Or like, I couldn't meet tomorrow. I'm going to be really busy.
Yeah. All right, Wylie, sounds good. Are you working, retired, or disabled?
I'm working.
You're working? Okay, cool. Let's see. I'll be out your way pretty much all day tomorrow. I could put you in at either, let's say, 6 a.m. or I could do 7:30 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. Which one works best for you?
You said 6 a.m.?
I could do 6 a.m., yep.
I can't do 11:30. You said, could you do a 6:30?
I could do 6:30. Yeah, let's try it this way. What's the latest you typically ever get home from work?
Around 7.
Around 7? Oh, okay, no problem. I have someone at 7 and 7:30 already, so I could put you for 8:15. Does that work for you okay?
Yeah.
I could squeeze you in there. I got a bunch of people to see, but I could try to squeeze you in.
And it's like 10 minutes, right?
15 minutes, yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll be there.
Cool. I need you to make sure when I get there you have your ID out. We'll run through a couple health questions. I'll let you know what you qualify for, okay?
Okay, see you then.
What if they go, hey, I already took care of this?
Perfect. My job's simple. I'm just the area manager assigned to review the coverage, make sure you're in the best possible position. I'll show you the state programs. You said you're off at 5?
Yep, off at 5.
Okay, and then your wife, she's off around, what time did you say again?
Yeah, she's not working. She'll be home.
Okay, perfect. See, we get 200 requests a week, so I'm super booked up. I don't have a 5, but I could get you in between 6 and 6:15. Any reason why you wouldn't be home then?
No, 6:15 will work.
Okay, perfect. Just make sure you have your policy out. It's going to honestly take me maybe 5 to 10 minutes. You just need that policy out so I can review it, and I'll be out of your hair.
Okay, got it. I'll see you then.
Perfect. I liked one thing that I always noticed and took from you and with handling objections is you stayed very monotone, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the beginning, I would get an objection. I'd be like, oh, and
yeah.
Then,
You start yelling at him on the phone.
And I'd be like, not like that, but you get it. And then I remember you came in, you're like, dude, just act like you're the state employee. Like you just have a piece of paper. Your job is to drop it off and you get paid $12 an hour. And so don't get emotional about this.
Yeah.
And that always really helped me because then the clients are like, man, these guys are really just providing information that we sent in and that's it.
Yeah, no doubt. My other one, so people always are like, I'm not interested in this anymore. I was always, okay, well, no problem at all. I'm not interested either. I'm just trying to do my job. Wylie, you don't want me to get fired, do you?
No.
All right, man. Well, my job is just to make sure you get the information. I have to check your ID, make sure to get you off our list. I don't want to keep calling you either, and I'm sure you don't want me to keep calling you, do you?
No.
All right, so what I got to do is I got to get over to you, check your ID, mark you off our list, release all liability from us to make sure you got the information you requested. And if I leave the house and you turn the paper that I write everything onto into a paper airplane and fly into a trash can, I'm totally good with that. But I just have to make sure I get the information over to you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So you just have to be, like you said, just very monotone, no big deal. And dude, the biggest phone script tip I ever got was, like, you stay level. You call it like it's like you're calling your friend. Like, say you and I went out to like a football game or basketball game, and you left your jacket there, right?
Yep.
And I just would call you the next day and go, "Hey, Wylie, you at work?" "Yeah." "Okay, well, hey, I got the jacket you left at the game yesterday. What time are you gonna be home from work?"
5.
"5. All right, dude, I'm gonna swing it over to you then, drop it off so that so I don't have to keep it in my car or whatever, right?" And you just treat it the exact same way that you would treat, and just are so assumptive. Like, I assume you want your jacket or your wallet back.
Yep.
Well, I assume the client that filled this, this form out, that they want it back over to them. So I'm coming over to see you either way, just figuring out what time to do it at.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like those are the main objections that you get. And I watched a video in the beginning that helped me because there were so many different ways that I could handle the objections. So I just tried to stick to one that got me through pretty much everything. So the framework there is, like we were just saying, just act like you're the state employee, you're the 9-to-5 worker. Whatever they say, if you don't know what to say, just say this. Like, perfect. My job is just to get this information out to you. I'm required to do so. It's going to take me 10 to 15 minutes. What time are you home?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you guys can't learn all these different strategies to handle the objection, just act like my job is to get you the information. It takes me 10 minutes and then go right back into a question.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So moving into in-home, I think a big one people get right off the rip there is they sit down with someone, and then I go, "Hey, I'm willing to hear you out, but I'm not doing anything today."
Yeah, perfect. So Zach, my job's really simple. All I have to do is 3 things. I'm just going to figure out what you're eligible for. We're just going to make sure this fits in your budget. We're going to make sure it protects your family like you need. As long as we do all of that, I'm not saying you can get coverage today, but we will apply to see, and then you guys are going to have a 30-day free look period to, look at the policy, think it over. But Zach, as long as it fits in your budget, protects your wife and your house, is there any reason why we wouldn't apply to see if we can protect your family?
No reason.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And that's why I always just handle that too. Is like, hey, if it doesn't make any sense to you, no problem. But like, if we go through everything and it makes sense and it accomplishes everything you want it to accomplish, and by the way, I'm going to shop around for all the different carriers with you, show you all your options. If we do all that stuff and it makes 100% sense to you, is there any reason that, you would not move forward with something today? Yeah. And then just trying to like move past it, be like, well, I guess if everything's like, dude, I don't care if you get it or not. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not going to waste our time here.
And I like how you take off the sales pressure. Like, look, I just have to go through this. Let's see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, I could care less. I have 20 families to go and help today. And so that makes them feel relieved that you're not going to be hard closing them, pressure selling them, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you handled the "I need to think about it" objection really well because you were so good at creating the why, and then you leaned on that when the clients would say, "I need to think about it." So Zach, let's say we're in the appointment. "Hey man, I love all these numbers. They're great, but I just need, honestly, I got to think about it. I never make decisions the same day. So could you just write your number right here?"
Yeah. So what I would always do there is say I have my financial inventory sheet here, and I have you, and you're 70 years old, and whatever I found every day. I would like look at you and be like, "All right, so we said here that that you needed at least $15,000 to bury you. Your daughter lives in Minnesota, works 2 jobs. And you said, like from I wrote here, that there's no way Mary could pay for this, right?
Yeah.
Like she'd be in a really terrible financial situation. And you said here that you didn't want to put her in that kind of spot with her having her kids and everything else going on. So I'm assuming if you're saying you need to think about it, Wylie, it's just because, it doesn't make sense for your budget or it's a little bit too expensive. Is that the only reason why?
Yeah, I just need to, crunch some numbers.
Okay. Well, it looks like based on everything you told me that there's something we can't go without, because if you pass away, you're going to leave her in a terribly financially compromising position. So what we're going to do today is, instead of doing this $20,000 or this $25,000, why don't we at least get you $15,000 to cover the burial expenses you said needed covered no matter what? We'll get that put in place. And then what I need from you is over the next 30 days, because this number here, the very lowest number here, that definitely fits in your budget based on everything we went through. So what I need for you to do over the next 30 days is we're going to put this one in, make sure it gets approved, and have the bare minimum in place.
Yeah.
And then over the next 30 days, I need you to think about it and tell me if you can increase the coverage to the 20 or the 25,000. But in the meantime, we'll have this bare minimum in place. That way, God forbid you die, your daughter is not put in that terrible situation you wanted to avoid. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great, actually.
So we're going to go ahead and get the application done for this one today. And like I said, I want you to think about it, and I want you to let me know if it's in your budget, and you can think about it, and you can add, an extra 5 or 10,000. We'll go ahead and do that. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, perfect.
And I'm using that one to think about it against. Like, I want you to think about it. That's great, but we know you can afford this bottom one, so we're going to do that one today. Why don't you go ahead and grab me your driver's license and your driver's license, your checkbook, and we'll get the application done.
Yeah. And I love how you tie it back to the beneficiary.
Yeah.
Going, hey, your daughter's out in Minnesota. She has 2 jobs, 3 kids. Like you were saying, you didn't want to put her in a hard situation. She's picking up 10 grand of debt. It doesn't make sense to do the top one. So what we'll do, and then I like where you just tell them, what we'll do is this. You're going to think about it, and then you can decide to increase later.
Right. And if you do a good job going through the budget, like the bottom one or what one, that one fits in their budget. So I'm like, I know that fits in your budget based on everything we went over, And I think the worst thing you can do as a new agent is if you go, well, let's just put an application, see if you get approved. Like, don't do that. That's going to charge back, and it's not helping you. It's not helping the client, and it makes you look bad to the carrier. So make sure you lean back on their why and go, hey, based on everything you told me, you need to put this in place. And I'm not saying we have to do the entire thing, but we have to do something so that you're not in that bad situation. And it'd be my fault if I didn't advocate for you and your family, Wylie, what do you say? Let's say you get through the appointment with someone and they say, I need to talk to my kids or grandkids or, my friend's brother who's an insurance agent. Like, what do you say if they say they need to talk to someone else once you get through everything?
I struggled with that one a lot, and I got a lot of advice, but there was one appointment where this guy really needed it, and he leaned on that objection, and I was like, dude, how do I get through this? I called you up, and this is what you explained that has helped me ever since. You asked me, like, how much did the client spend on groceries a month? And I was like, $500. And you just said it like this, like, just say this. So, Bob, I completely agree. Definitely go and talk to your kids. Let them know, like, you're going to have the policy in place. And remind me again, you said you spent $500 a month on groceries. Like, yeah. Okay. Do you bring your kid to the store every time you go shopping for bread, eggs, and the whole 9 yards? No, that's kind of weird. Like, yeah, well, it's kind of weird. This is only $88 a month, and your family needs it, and it's going to help them out, solve the problem you were just telling me about. So why don't we just start with the lowest one? We know you can afford it, and then you can tell your kid you have coverage, and then at that point you guys can make any adjustments. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, and I think using the analogies like that is huge, right? I used to all the time. Like, so sometimes someone who was like, they say they're looking for they want a big coverage, but they can only get a small one because they have like a heart disease or something, right? Like, I'd always go with that one. I'd be like, okay, so like you work a job where you have to go in and out to work, right? So you need a car to get there every day. And I'm like, Wylie, if you could have any car in the world, what car would you have? Just give me whatever your dream car would be.
Just an Audi.
Like an Audi, right? Okay, but what's the car payment on the Audi that you would want? Like the nicest one ever that you could imagine.
I mean, 700 plus, I'd imagine.
Okay, and so let's say, but you still have to get to work in every single day, and you can't afford the $700 Audi. Would you go, I'm going to walk every day, or would you go, I'm going to get something I can afford, even if it's like a 1997, Saturn?
Yeah, I'd get the
Saturn, right? Okay, so I understand that we want the big coverage, but let's go ahead and get the smaller one because you need something. You still need to have something in place, even if it can't be the best thing ever. You still have to have something, right?
Yeah.
And having something is better than having nothing. This way you don't have to walk to work, or in this case, your family doesn't have to go with no insurance. You can still have something that we can put in place today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
And I think using like real world analogy to people, they're like, yeah, that'd be dumb. I would never just walk 8 miles to work. Like, I'd still have a car. But they're like, well, I want the $1 million coverage. Like, dude, you had a heart attack 2 years ago. Let's get you the $30,000 coverage, right?
Right. No, that's huge. I've actually never heard that one, but I mean,
you didn't? That was my go-to.
No,
yeah.
dude.
I'd always ask people what's your dream car? And they tell me something crazy, like some $400,000 car or something. I'd be like, okay, but like, you drive a Toyota, and me too, right? Because we need to go to work. And like, it'd be great to have the dream car, but let's live in the real world right now. We drive the Toyota. Well, we have to do the Eagle Premier policy today.
That's perfect, because you'll get a lot of clients like 68 to like 80 that are like, hey, I need 250,000. You're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Like,
believe me too. I want you to have the 200,000, and I want to drive the Ferrari too, bro. But let's come back to the real world for a minute.
No, that's huge. One analogy that I use that kind of popped into my head is when you're going through the why and you're asking them, like, if you passed away tomorrow, what would that look like for your kids? And they're like, well, my kids could handle it. They're in a good position. I don't necessarily think I need this. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's good. Like, what do they do? Oh, he's a lawyer. Perfect. Well, let me give you this analogy real quick, Zach. So let's say me and you go out to dinner. We're going out for steaks. We're having a good conversation. Then I get up, use the restroom. 20 minutes goes by, still not back. An hour goes by, I'm still not back. And you're like, where's this guy? Next thing you know, 2 hours has gone by. The waiter gives you the check. it's $500. You're gonna go, dang it, dude. Like, he just totally left me here with this check for $500. Like, I can definitely pay for this, but he was supposed to help me out with it. Like, Zach, how would that make you feel if we went out to dinner and I left you with the full check?
Right. Pretty bad. Annoyed.
Not too good, right? It's the same situation that you're leaving your kids in. Yes, they can handle it, but it's not their job. They didn't create this debt. So doesn't it make sense just to get a small insurance policy to cover this?
Yeah. And is that the legacy you want to leave, where they're remembering you, leaving them with this thing they have to pay for?
The last thing they're going to remember.
Yeah.
So I always loved that one because I struggled with the client would, tell me like, my kids can handle it. And I'm like, oh, great. See ya.
Yeah.
And then that helped.
The other thing I wanted to talk about too, and we can maybe wrap up with this one or one more, but so like sometimes people go, well, I don't really see what $20,000 will do for me, or $30,000 in coverage, or whatever it is, right? And I think it's important that we like get really good at tying that to something. So like, say you're putting something in place for someone that's like a $20,000 benefit. If it's just $20,000, like they might go, I don't know if that's like, it doesn't seem like a lot, even though it's a lot of money. Like they may go, that's not going to help me. I have a lot of debt and this and that. So like, can you explain how you would break down what all that would be? Like what all you would tie that $20,000 to for them to make it make sense for them to have it?
Yeah. So let's say it's a final expense appointment. And this example, the daughter lives in Minnesota. I'm like, all right, so if you pass away tomorrow, she's going to have to come out of pocket $10,000 for the final expenses, your burial, right? Yep. Okay. And then how much time is she going to have to take off? And will she have to clean your apartment up? Will she need help moving? Is she going to be able to make her bills when she takes 2 to 3 weeks off? No. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put $20,000 in place. What this is going to do for your daughter, it's going to cover her income for 2 to 3 weeks so she can move everything out of the apartment. We'll make sure the movers get paid for, your final expenses are paid for, and then hopefully we can just have a little money left over to leave her with a little legacy to help out the grandbabies you were talking about. So we'll start with $20,000. At that point, you can move up to $30,000, maybe help her out with the down payment for her mortgage, something along those lines. But I like creating a bigger issue and really allowing them to see like, hey, you're going to have to break this lease. She's probably going to have to pay for, the 6 months you didn't pay after you pass away. She'll take time off of work, et cetera.
Yeah. And tying a lot of things to something makes it a lot harder for them to cancel too.
Yep.
It makes it easier for them to buy and harder to cancel. Because if they're looking at it and they're like, well, I have a $20,000 whole life policy. It's like, okay, well, maybe they could justify canceling it. But if they go, this is the thing that's going to make it so my daughter can come to my house, take care of my final expenses, pay for the funeral, casket, all of the above, be able to move all my stuff in and out of the house. Like that's a lot more value, right?
Yeah.
Or if you have someone who has a home, like this is going to pay for 6 months of the mortgage payments. It's going to pay for my funeral. It's going to pay for my kids' time off work, movers, et cetera. Then you have all these things it's tied to. And then when they're going to cancel something, if something comes up in life, they're going to go, yeah, maybe I should cancel the DirecTV instead of this because look at all this stuff that's tied to this is much more valuable than just this thing over here, right?
Yeah, no, that's huge. And then one thing I think you're really good at that I want you to touch on is when a client has insurance and you figure that out and they go, I have this policy. How did you build value to, create the urgency to get another one? What did you do there?
So I think the first thing with that one is understanding the mindset of the client is they already they filled something out, whether it was a final expense, lead, or whether it was an internet lead or a mortgage lead. They had insurance already. Then they saw the marketing and then they filled out the thing after they already knew they had the insurance, right? So you have to go, okay, so they knew that they already had insurance and they still needed more. So what were they looking for in addition, right? So if it's like a mortgage one and they say they have, a $500,000 policy and they make, 70, 80, 100 grand a year, right? Then you go, okay, cool, perfect. So Wylie, I'm glad you have this set up. You already have your income replacement set up, which is great. Actually they recommend about 10 years of your annual income. So you're doing pretty well on that side. So it looks like it's going to save us a bit of time today. And all we have to focus on is just making sure that the mortgage is covered, right? Or say it's a final expense coverage, right? And they go, I have a $10,000 policy already. And you go, okay, cool. So did you just realize that, with inflation and everything, you needed more than $10,000 to cover this? Or did you want to make sure you had some debt and income replacement taken care of as well and leave a little legacy money for your kids? So I'm throwing out 3 or 4 things so they can pick them. They might go all of the above. They might go, no, I think 10,000 will cover that, but I want to make sure my kids have some money to come out to the funeral, have a little bit of money left over and be able to start a college fund for our kids or whatever, right? Or same thing for an internet lead. You're meeting with 2 people, maybe they don't have a house, but they have the final expense coverage already in place. Like, okay, cool. So, Wylie, you set this up for Lizzie to make sure she can pay for your funeral, but you make $3,000 a month, she makes $1,000. Do you know how that works with Social Security? I go, no, right? Okay, so she's going to lose, this part of your income right here because it was from your job. So you're going to keep your $2,400 a month. She's going to lose her $1,000. So she's going to lose about $2,000 a month total because she gets to hire the two socials and is going to lose, the survivorship on your pension that you have.
Right.
So we need to make sure, I guess this is probably what you're thinking, we need to make sure that there's something set aside to replace a year or two of your income so that she can adjust to not having your income anymore. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that does.
So you're just going like, okay, this problem's solved. What's the other problem that they have out here that I can help protect against?
Yeah, and I love it how you structure it like you're losing $2,000 a month in a year span. That's $24,000.
$24,000. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, right? And they're like, yeah. And most of the time that you can see their wheels turning, like, I didn't even think about that. How could she pay the bills? I thought I had everything covered. And it's like, well, no. Let's look at this. I'll give you a year's worth of income replacement, 2, 3, and then that's how you build that value.
Give you time to adjust to not having it, to go like, can I stay at this house? Do I have to go somewhere else? Do I have to downsize something smaller? It'll give you plenty of time to make the right decision.
Yeah. And I love talking about also the quality of life. Like when I sit down with people that are really wealthy and, they have extracurricular activities and they're making a good money and they have some money to play around with, I'm like, all right, you guys have built a, amazing life. You guys obviously love it. But at this point, when he passes away, you're still going to be able to pay your bills. You're just not going to have that $3,000 to $4,000 of money that you guys use to do all these activities. What we're going to do is just get a policy in place. So 2 years, you can still have the same quality of life. And then, hopefully at that point, you can lower your bills. You can adjust anything in your life to make sure it still fits the lifestyle that you guys have built. They're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, hopefully this was helpful for y'all. We just wanted to give some tips, things we picked up over the time in the field. And thank you for helping me out, Wylie.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
you, man.
Appreciate you, bro.